Welcome to the Sexual Wellness Podcast, real-life conversations with industry experts on modern sexuality and how to live a happy, healthy, turned-on life. I'm your host, LuAnn, founder of New Zealand's leading sexual wellness store and holistic sex, love, and life coach, passionately guiding women to expand their pleasure in and outside the bedroom. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Sexual Wellness Podcast. Today I am bringing to you Caitlin Cook, who is an international coach, facilitator, writer, and multidisciplinary artist working in mindfulness, self-love, sacred sexuality, and shamanic healing. She is fucking epic, and her work centers in embodiedness and explores love, freedom, body image, authenticity, surrender, and power. I've personally been to her workshops, I've worked with her, and I've been in many social occasions with her now, and she's someone who I really admire in this space, particularly when it comes to this very juicy and very controversial topic, consensual non-monogamy and opening your relationship. So I was really inspired to get Caitlin on the show because this particular topic is one that I know can be very confronting and very confusing for a lot of people. So I thought, why not bring one of the experts on the show to talk us through what all of the different relationship styles are first and foremost. So in the first part of this series, because it's just such a huge topic, I've had to split it into 2 episodes. So in the first half, we're going to be talking about what monogamy is, what consensual non-monogamy is, and all of the different variables in between. We talk about what some of the reasons are for people wanting to explore these alternative styles of relating, and some of the ways that you can sort of really identify what it is for you personally that you are needing and that you are seeking out of exploring these different modalities, I guess. So it's a really important foundation and foreground to go off before we dive into the next part of the series, which will be released next week, and that is all about the how-tos. So without further ado, let's get the party started. Enjoy the show. Okay, welcome, Caitlin.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
It's a pleasure. Yeah, it is a pleasure. Always. I love seeing you. I've met you a couple of times now in real life. And yeah, I'm really excited to have you on the show to talk about this epic and very vast topic. So yeah, and also really juicy because I love this purely because we've both got really different backgrounds, and I guess we're both practicing different relationship models at the moment, and so I think the benefit of us talking together is being able to bring our own experience to it and discuss that. So Okay, so before we dive into all of that, I'd love to know, what color are you today and why?
Reddy pink. Just because it's like full, vibrant life, juicy, not trying to play it cool. Yeah.
Epic. Okay, cool. I love that. Good color. Okay, so
what color are you, Laura? I don't know where to start.
I feel like a bit of a maroon. I'm actually wearing maroon, but I feel very kind of woomy. I'm going to start blending soon. I'm just like very much in this sort of like everything is feeling very deep and meaningful and significant right now. So yeah. Yeah.
Good to know.
Thanks for asking.
You suit maroon.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, girl. Thanks. Okay, so much to talk about. I think we'll go with my set of questions that I've actually very thoughtfully prepared. And the first one that I had that I thought would be great to kick this conversation off was, let's start by defining open relating and all of its various aliases, because, you know, nowadays there are many, many people practicing all different types of consensual non-monogamy.
Mm-hmm.
So perhaps we can really go into what they are and, what they look like.
Well, I guess the core thing with open relating is that it's basically just not monogamy. Like everything that is not monogamy is open relating. And there are many, many different ways of doing that. There's also polyamory, which is poly meaning many, amory meaning love. So it means like having relationships simultaneously with multiple different people that are meaningful, ongoing. Like, for example, you might meet the parents of John and you might meet the parents of Sam and you might, you know, it's like that kind of depth of commitment and connection. And then open relating is in relationship, but it can look, it's like, it's much more broad than that, because it might mean that you have a partner, but your openness extends to you both kiss other people at parties, or you have occasional, romantic connections with people when you travel. But they're not necessarily like, simultaneous ongoing relationships like your primary partner. So that can also include like monogamish kind of relationships, which are like pretty much monogamous with the occasional or like little piece of, you know, experiencing like, perhaps a threesome once a year or twice a year or something, you know? So yeah, there are many, many different ways of exploring non-monogamy. And I love that you talk about consensual non-monogamy, because this is like a really big definer. There's cheating on someone, which is also non-monogamy. And then there's consciously engaging with people when everyone's actually in a place of awareness, trust, full transparency, agreements. Everyone's in integrity, basically. So that's a really key part of the definition, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, so the question could almost be reversed, and it's like, what is monogamy? Because traditional monogamy means that you have, it's this kind of like Christian marriage in a way. Do you want to take that question? Yeah. Do you want to take over from me there?
Yeah. Yes. What is monogamy? And it's interesting too, because and it's funny because I'm actually technically in a monogamous relationship right now. Like, we have been non-monogamous for the majority of our relationship. And then there just came a point when we were really tuning into, how things were feeling. And it kind of felt like there was like the non-monogamy part of our relationship was kind of taking more than it was giving. At which point, and like any system, like for example, our current planetary ecosystem, the more that if we take too much, it starts to die. So there's kind of like a harmony that needs to be reached. So we have, and we can talk more about this later in the podcast too, about when the relationship can start to feel like it needs a bit more attention. That's like a good time to put a pause on all the other relationships. But, like in our monogamous relationship, when we're consciously, so there's conscious non-monogamous relating, and then there's conscious monogamous relating. So we can bring that same kind of level of authenticity, truth, connection, transparency, like genuine intimacy into monogamy, rather than just kind of taking this, because I feel like what happens when you talk about like this Christian kind of framework of monogamy, it's like there's this shop that you go to buy your relationship model of monogamy, and they're all the same. It's like this like Chinese produced, like mass produced thing, and it's all the same. Versus, okay, this is our relationship. Like, how do we want to make our monogamous relationship? And so that might mean, it's you and me together as partners, but we invite, each other to talk about how, I don't know, we thought like there was this babe on the bus that I saw this morning, and they were so hot and oh my God. And it's not like I'm going to go and pursue that, but I don't have to hide it from my partner, even though I'm monogamous, you know? So, so it's like really redefining monogamy, not just taking the framework that we've had from movies, our parents, from church, but actually, like how do I want this monogamous relationship to look and feel?
Yeah, beautiful. And I love that because I gotta say, I personally myself am monogamous, and it's similar to you. It's like this is just where I'm at in my life right now. This is what feels good for me, and it's like a very clear decision. But at the same time, I am surrounded by alternative relationship models all the time, and just through being in this field, I've been very curious about polyamory and open relating. I've read so many books and, spoken to so many people. I've had some really inspiring people around me like model it, and I've seen it being done beautifully. I've also seen it being done not so beautifully, but that happens. I mean, like some of my monogamous relationships have been no way, shape or form any better than that. So I guess it's like what I've learned from what I've seen around me and from my dalliances into, the style of relating in the past was so helpful to my now like conscious monogamous lifestyle, because you learn things about, your partner not being an object, and you learn things about, conscious relating, communication, being open, being honest and authentic. Because if from what I've seen and from what I've read in books, it's like being polyamorous is not a walk in the street.
No.
It is like, it takes a lot of energy, a lot of resources, a lot of communication. Like you've got to be on the ball, and it takes a lot of integrity to make sure that you're kind of doing it in harmony with yourself and with everyone around you. So, there's a lot of thought that goes into it all. And if anything, I've learnt a lot from it, and it's contributed to positively to my monogamous relationships now.
Yeah, beautiful. I think that's so gorgeous too, because it kind of shows the flexibility and fluidity of relationship styles too, that like just because you explore polyamory, it doesn't mean you have to be polyamorous your whole life. And same with monogamy. Like say you're in this monogamous relationship, it's not like now you're beholden to always be that, and also allowing that like the learning that happens in in any relationship will be able to be taken in and make you wiser, more mature, allow your heart to stay open in places where normally you would have started to close. So it's beautiful.
Yeah. And I also love how you've just like showcase that in your relationship as well. You were the majority of your relationship open, and now you have come together and you've decided together that this is what is serving you now. And that's a beautiful example of being really pleasant, being really present with the relationship and what is working for you now. Because in long-term relationships, we change as individuals, and our needs for the relationship changes as well. And so it's beautiful to have these frameworks available to us to be able to adapt and grow as we adapt and grow through life. Yeah. So what are some of the reasons why people start to get curious about open relating and non-monogamy?
Oh, many. I guess like a key thing is the kind of naturalness of eros, of erotic energy, of curiosity, of intimacy that we feel with different humans. And when we're in a relationship with someone, it's not like that just suddenly turns off. I mean, sometimes it does, but often it comes back in various ways. but it's not, it just means that, like, you know, because we're in a relationship, it's like suddenly we're just not looking at anyone else and we're not attracted to anyone else. And so conscious non-monogamy kind of allows us to reclaim our authentic state, our authentic desire, our curiosity, our natural kind of way, and bring it into a place of, like, integrity for one, which means that you're connected to it authentically yourself, but then you're also bringing it into transparency with your partner so that you're not kind of like going into the shadow and like doing all this stuff in like murky, icky ways, which actually doesn't feel good for you. It's like maybe the desire started in a really innocent and beautiful way, but then how we go about it is kind of icky. And so by just like bringing it into this like conscious meaning like aware, present, clear, truthful, shared. It's not like hidden, secret, shamed, guilty, you know, it's the opposite. And so it's kind of just bringing our full human self into the light and into a shared place so that we can actually build more intimacy with our partners by also being honest, and ourselves by being honest about our desire for others. And also it's like this idea that, you know, your partner is beautiful, but they're possibly not going to meet you on every single level, every single desire, every single like flavor. You know, they are who they are. But if you, for example, really like have this like real desire to connect with someone who is like quite a rebel, and someone who is, I don't know, just has this like sense about them, like this vibration of like naughty, alive, cheeky, and your partner's this like really serene, soft sweetheart. It's like, it's kind of hard for them to access that in order for you to experience what that's like. So it's kind of also giving your partner permission for them just to be them and to not have to be everything to you, and that you can experience life, and which actually means experiencing yourself in new ways in connection with other people. So it's kind of like a, like I guess the short answer would be really validating and bringing eros and desire into a place of integrity and honor rather than shame and guilt and secrecy. And also, like enabling a really, really rich experience of life.
I love that. Yep, I love it. And I love that simple fact of it just being out in the open.
Yeah.
And that alone is something that you can practice within monogamy, and not having to shame or shun desire or attraction, because you can use that as a fuel and use it to create a deeper sense of honesty and trust and intimacy within your relationship. Like take that, you know, oh, you've just seen a hot guy on the bus example. Yeah. And for some people within their relationship, it would be, you know, it would be a part of their practice to come home and be like, oh, I just had this experience. Like, wow, you know, what a human being. But it doesn't have to, you know, and actually like being able to share that with someone who you love and come home with that excited and that erotic, that eros energy that you're talking about, is kind of adding fuel into the relationship if it's received. Mm-hmm. If it's received, obviously. Whereas it could also go the other way, where you're not in a relationship where that kind of openness is okay yet, or perhaps not at all, and that sort of desire sort of goes into the shadow, into the wrong, you know. And we live in a world of so many beautiful people, and I love what you're saying about how our partners don't necessarily fulfill every single need and want and desire.
And nor
and
should
it's
they.
Beautiful to know. No, they shouldn't. And it's so nice to know that like we can experience the pleasures of life that are accessible and available and walking around us every single day. We can experience that and be nourished by that and not necessarily need it to be a leaky shadow experience to the detriment of your relationship. And that's really beautiful. And then it comes down to how you define monogamy or non-monogamy between your specific relationship as to what that experience could look like. Is it okay to share? Is it okay to pursue? And so on and so forth.
And I feel like a like really core reason to kind of explore, I mean, really the reason to explore non-monogamy is, do I really feel the curiosity? Do I really feel the call? Does my body feel like it's going to expand in this process? And that's kind of like the sign. And like, yeah, actually this might be something to explore. But it's like the kind of healing and wisdom and like spiritual growth that can come from exploring non-monogamy and monogamy is huge, because there's so many, and this is one of the things I really love about it, and one of the reasons why I choose to explore, well, any kind of relationship really. But it's like jealousy, for example, that comes up or something. Then I have to really, like, I'm jealous and I'm afraid that my partner is going to connect with this woman and he's going to realize that she's better than I am and that I'm actually kind of a piece of shit and I'm not good enough. And then I have to look at that belief I have about myself and I process it. I feel it and I let go of it. And then I'm not constricted by this belief that I'm not worthy. You know, so like I kind of like met my demon in the relationship. It forced me to really, really see myself and fall in love with myself in a new way. So I feel like that's another huge gift in exploring non-monogamy, because there's so many things that come up like that, and it's beautiful. And also true of monogamy as well. So much can come up in those relationships. Any relationship with your mother, with your partner, with your son.
Amen to that. And thank you for adding on how you can learn all of that in monogamy as well, because I mean, I have had in the past so many women, specifically young women, come to me saying, oh, I want to work on my like jealousy issues, therefore I'm going to be polyamorous. And I'm just like, I mean, like, cool, whatever, like, but you know, this is my personal experience. Everybody has their own path, but for me, learning self-worth and self-love in relationship within monogamy has been the hardest thing I've ever done, because, okay, just to be like super real about where I've come from, and that is I've spent my kind of life and in my 20s being in, you know, frivolous, open, non-committed relationships, thinking that I was the most sexually empowered person on the planet because I could, you know, love all these people, have multiple lovers. Like, I thought I was the shit. And, you know, the reality of all of that was it was just a total mask, and I was lying to myself, because deep down in my heart I really, really just wanted to love one person and in return be loved by that one person back, but I didn't feel worthy of that. And so I hid in all of these alternative relationship styles to sort of, you know, mask the pain of having to actually learn that no, I am worthy of one love, and I am worthy of this type of relationship. And so, you know, everyone's journey is so unique and different. And going back to what you were saying earlier about the phases in life and all the things that we go through, I mean, if you're someone who's, you know, in your 30s wanting to settle down, you've already spent your 20s like traveling the world, having sex with like all sorts of people, experiencing like cultures and everything in life, then perhaps you're in a place where you don't feel that depth of curiosity and that need anymore. You know, that person on the bus, you can enjoy that desire, but you don't need to pursue it, because come on, there are people on the bus all over the world every day, and like the sort of the novelty's worn off in a way, you know?
I feel like the piece for me is what I love about, and this doesn't have to only be in polyamorous and non-monogamous relationships. It can also be in monogamous relationships, as we've talked about. But like when we feel that desire for another person, it's just the feeling of not shutting it down. You know, it's like welcoming, like it's a laugh, you know, when like someone says something really funny and you just like burst out laughing. We don't like judge like, oh no, I laughed, or like that's so what is my partner going to think? And so then when I feel this like rush of sexual energy, when I see this babe on the bus, I greet it with the same happiness as I would as a laugh. And cause it's the same innocence, actually. It's just life force. It's like a response to life. And so, yeah, I just feel that it's a celebration of life. That's what it is. And you're right, it doesn't have to be pursued. I also had this really strong vision some time back where, I saw, you know, or like a flower on a bush. You can enjoy the flower on the bush and see how beautiful it is without having to pick it and take it home and put it in your vase. And same with beautiful people. But I guess what I'm trying to say is like, let yourself feel the beauty. Like, don't put blinkers on and be like, no, I mustn't see any beauty. I mustn't be a human. It's like, no, you're allowed to be a human. It's just how you, with integrity, what you do with that, you know? But it's like, it's something to celebrate.
Yeah, totally. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. That's epic. That flower analogy, on point. Oh gosh, I'm getting lost in all these questions now. I feel like the next one, we've sort of already covered it. I wanted to go into more of the, like, we've talked about some of the reasons why people would like want to go into monogamy, but I feel like you've also summed it up perfectly in terms of like the core philosophy of what it is, because like there's a difference between, oh, I'm in this monogamous relationship and I want to have sex with somebody else, and how you explained it was like really going into like the overarching philosophy of non-monogamy. So I feel like we've sort of covered that, but are there any other like kind of key philosophies that you wanted to share?
I guess like, you know, when you're talking about in your 20s and having lots of relationships and things, oh my gosh. And also talking to some of my friends in LA who are in polyamorous relationships, and I'm just like, oh my God, like, they're just like getting hurt left, right, and center. And there's a kind of, you know, like there can be a lot of like the yuckiest parts of humans that come out in relationships. And I think sometimes polyamory and non-monogamy can be used to justify entitlement, can be used to actually hide away from intimacy, from really allowing yourself to be seen. Can be used, like, as you say, you were kind of using it as a mask to try and delude yourself as to what you really, really wanted, which was just to be in love with one person. And I guess that's kind of one thing. And I feel like it's one of the things that people are like, oh, I don't know if I'd want to explore open relating because like there's all this yuckiness that can come out. And so in terms of the philosophy, and this is like, there's non-monogamy and then there's conscious non-monogamy. And that consciousness is the piece where it's going to like really, it's about accountability and generosity and care and self-awareness, and really exploring the relationship as like or the relationships as a spiritual practice, like for you to let go of the baggage of, you know, acting like a bloody child or self-worth stuff and this kind of thing. So yeah, I just really feel like the kind of maturity is so core to really exploring open relating well, and not just kind of going into it with a kind of frivolousness or an entitlement or like a kind of I nearly want to say like casualness, but in that I mean like like carelessness. That's it. Like a carelessness. It doesn't work well. I think probably true for monogamy as well. Like any of those things in a monogamous relationship wouldn't work too well either, but it becomes super apparent when there's multiple people relating.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks
like
for
it
that.
can just be done really
like
badly, you know, like monogamy can also get pretty ugly, but polyamory and non-monogamy can just be like, oh God, so much heartbreak. But it doesn't have to be that way. And we can talk about ways as well to also kind of bring it into a place of ease and joy and actually being able to have your heart open rather than getting it crushed.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are going to get to that, taking it from polyagony to polyharmony.
Exactly.
I think before we dive into like the how-tos and the steps, I feel like for our listeners, it could be really valuable to maybe have an in-between step. So say our listeners are, monogamous and they're into it, right? But they are curious and they want to, be able to feel the desire for the babe on the bus and, they're kind of picking up on that, but they don't necessarily want to be in a polyamorous relationship. So what about talking about the scope of monogamy and inviting new ways to experience and play with your partner that are still with, essentially within the realms of that. So, okay, like for some people, flirting is cheating, right? For some people, watching porn is cheating. So what are like some ways that if they're in those circumstances, they can start to sort of open up and create a little bit more spaciousness within their monogamous relationship to invite more of that freedom and desire?
Good question. So I'd say the first thing is to really get in touch with what it is you desire. And so there's what your body is calling you to, what your heart is calling you to, and what your mind is calling you to. Because sometimes they can be all in alignment, and sometimes your body can be really excited about this idea, but your heart's a little bit scared, and your mind's like, yeah, that's going to be cool. So really just tuning in and sensing like, what is it that feels real? What is it that feels exciting? And what is it that basically makes me feel like I get bigger and I expand versus feeling contracted and heavy and tight? Because that's a good indication of what is genuinely something that I want versus something that I don't want. So that would be the first thing, like really tune into what it is that I want. And then to talk about it with your partner, see how they're feeling too, get them to also tune in with their body, heart, and mind. And then, you could talk about many, many different things, different ways of, exploring without having to go like full tilt polyamorous relationship. I feel like this is one of the funny things actually, like when also what happens a little bit with people who are maybe interested in kink or something like that. It's like they feel like if they want to explore kink, they need to have like a whip and a ball gag and like one of those like latex masks and, and that's like pretty full on, that's like way down the line. But you can also explore kink with, someone being more in surrender and someone being more in action, and like there's no ball gag required. Like in very simple, subtle ways you can explore without going so far that it just becomes traumatizing. Because there's your comfort zone, which is sort of like, the easy kind of way of life. And then beyond that is your growth zone. And that's kind of like, that's a bit of a stretch. That's like not quite normal life. And I feel like I need to like bring new and grow up new aspects of myself. And then beyond the growth zone is just trauma. And so to go beyond what is a comfortable growth, like, for example, you can imagine as a child when you're growing, it's like there's a natural kind of like even you might have growing pains or something, but if you grew way too fast, you would just be in pain all the time, like there's a natural kind of rhythm and timing to it. So starting out really slowly is great, not going like way out into like, like polyamorous Olympia kind of land. And so you could even, it could be a thing where it's like, okay, what about if we come home and when we come home, if we've seen any babes in the day, we just tell each other. Or if we're watching a movie and we're like, oh my God, Jude Law is such a babe, like we can share that. And maybe we watch porn together, conscious porn. Is best. Alternative is way better. Or maybe we talk about fantasies. And so we're just lying in bed together, we're in each other's arms, and we're talking about different desires. And something that's really important with that is there might be stuff that comes up for you in that. Like that could be kind of triggering. Or, you know, suddenly, like even that is kind of bringing up ideas of like, oh my God, but what if you fall in love with that person and you leave me? So that's okay. It's okay to have that as a response. And what I would encourage people to do is just to be really honest with that within you. One of the worst things, I mean, like one of the big ideas with polyamory is and non-monogamy. It's like, it's welcoming all of who you are rather than shutting down your truth. And so why shut down your truth now? Now you're having this response. You're a little bit afraid. So that's okay. So let's welcome that to the relationship. So yeah, share that with your partner and also take responsibility yourself and do your inner work. Like, okay, so why am I jealous? Like, what do I really believe about myself? Like, do I really believe that I am lovable? Do I trust my partner when they say they love me? Do I trust men? Do I trust women? Do I trust love? And so really to go deep. Even in the little things, like they can, it's surprising what can come out. But there's really like the sky's the limit on this kind of thing. I mean, you could join Tinder together and make a profile and never actually go on a date with anyone, but just like be this cute little erotic unit and like looking at all the honeys that you're like, oh yeah, she would be cute. Or even just going to parties and like choosing like who you would take home. And it doesn't mean that you take anyone home, but like, yeah, I think we would do well with this one, or, you know, like it can be really fun and playful and it doesn't have to go anywhere.
I love that. I really love that. And that feels really easeful. And I love that growth zone, you know, like approach your sexuality with your partner like you do life and your career, you know, like let's grow in our sexuality, like let's do it together,
yes.
You know?
Yeah.
That's really, really beautiful. That's a nice mindset switch. And it's also nice to point out again that, you know, the phases of where you're at in your life are always changing, and it's so important to tune in. Like I know for myself in, like past beautiful monogamous relationships I was in, we practiced, this thing called soulies. So whenever I saw a babe on the bus, I would call them a soulie. Or if I had an interaction with, you know, an old man who was 60, who like, you know, obviously there is, you know, for me it was, well, not even obviously, because who knows these days, but like, you know, it wasn't an erotic experience, but it was just, you know, when you have those moments with people and it is such a deep soul connection and you really experience love with them in that moment. It's an intimacy,
yeah.
It's an intimacy, and it doesn't have to take anything away from my relationship, and it didn't need to go anything further than where it went. But I loved that I could take that home to my partner at the time and talk about it and say, oh my God, I met a soulie today. And he'd be like, tell me everything.
Yeah.
Like, tell me all about it. You know, it was kind of like, it was an exciting thing that we shared together. Whereas now in the monogamous relationship where I'm in, it's like, I don't actually feel like I want to do that because I'm in a completely different space, and I literally just want to make my partner feel like he's the king of like the kingdom of our, like of us, you know, and that's just like where I'm at with it right now. Like I just want to like, I want to like, and this isn't something I've only ever just, I'm feeling this from my body. I don't even know how to articulate it, but that soulies practice doesn't feel relevant in my body. I don't actually want to do that right now because all I want to do with this man in this context, in this phase, in this relationship is to just shower him with everything and just make him feel like fucking king. And I think it's awesome to just be able to like really tune in to where you're at and who you are right now and the type of relationship that you're in and what you want to achieve with it, because it changes, and it's awesome to approach it with that growth mindset that you were talking about earlier.
Yeah. I think that's so important because, it's like just because, you did it in previous relationships, it doesn't mean it's relevant now. And so just being so connected to your authentic self, that is what creates amazing relationships. And it's what creates the most incredible growth in your own being as well. Like if we're constantly doing what everyone else wants us to do or what our previous self wanted to do, we end up just becoming like shackled, you know, and there's not this sense of living, breathing, organic power in our body because we're being told what to do by our former self, by society, by our parents, what our friends are doing, how our friends are doing in relationships. So I really like honor it, and I'm so like, yay for you and your relationship, because the authenticity is what is going to bring ecstatic experiences between you. So yeah. And I would also say like, you know, one of the things I really love about, I guess like, and this is a question, for you, but it's not like it's like you're not feeling, compelled to share that kind of stuff. Maybe also because you're just not noticing babes as much right now because you're just like super in love with your beloved. But it's not like you are also shutting down that feeling, right? Or like judging yourself like, oh no, but I'm supposed to make him the king, so I shouldn't be feeling other stuff. It's like you still have this kind of natural flow within you, and this is just where your natural flow is, right?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think for me, like I'm naturally a very sensual and expressive person with like how I, you know, move through the world, how I interact with my friendships, and my whole life is based around pleasure. You know, every single day I talk about living a turned on life, and I am not afraid to experience pleasure and arousal in all of its offerings. And yeah, I think just like what's turning me on right now is like laying these like solid foundations and just like really nourishing and growing this like epic relationship. And that's something that is so deeply important to me and has been for such a long time. And so, you know, it's like that is what's turning me on. That's what's bringing me pleasure.
Perfect. And that is actually all I would say is the key. Well, the really, really big key to conscious relating is just like, yeah, being in touch with that authenticity and letting that move through you without, rules and this kind of stuff. So yeah, good on you.
Yeah. Thanks. Gosh, gold star for me. Yeah. If you enjoyed this episode, hit like and subscribe or share it with someone who you feel could benefit from hearing it too. My mission is to bring healthy sexuality to the mainstream, so be sure to leave your 5-star review on your favorite podcasting app, because that way this content can land in the ears of those who need it the most. If you're looking for more resources on how to live a turned-on life, check out my website at www.laura-allen.com, where you'll find events, coursework, free downloadable workbooks, as well as my coaching packages. And lastly, I want to thank you for taking the time to prioritize yourself in this exquisite way, because when we do, that's when we can really start to show up for the rest of the world. And until next time, thank you so much for listening, and I'll be back with another episode soon.